Thanks, Hudson, and thank you to Sarah and the team for this opportunity today to present two sessions. As Hudson has already mentioned, Ava and I will present on behalf of our colleague Angie Barba, and we'll present a case again for collaboration between ethics and the ANZCTR to help ensure that clinical trial information on the ANZCTR's public-facing website is kept up to date. So why do we need to keep information up to date? Well, it is an essential activity to meet the growing needs of multiple stakeholders, including the public, trialists, and funders. For example, for a patient, up-to-date information allows them to find relevant trials and consider participating in this trial if it's open for recruitment. And updating of trial information on the registry should take place at least once a year, as per the World Health Organization's best practice for registries. And both the ANZCTR and Australian ethics committees request updates about the trials from sponsors at least on an annual basis. So as both entities are requesting information from trial sponsors at a similar time frame, we wanted to first identify any areas of information required by the ANZCTR and the Human Research Ethics Application and Updating process, and also to identify the most commonly updated sections in the trial registry record in the ANZCTR. And to do this with the view to see where there's potential synergies between these two entities and workflows. So the first aim, we reviewed the information required in each data field from both entities. We categorised these fields as either matching when identical or similar when there may be variations in data definitions. And on the left-hand side here, as you can see, these are the data fields that completely match. These included trial milestones or administrative information, for example, recruitment status, sample size, and ethics information. On the right-hand side, these are the similar data fields where information is collected in a similar but not in the same way. For example, the requirements around the public title and the description of the intervention can be quite different for the ANZCTR compared to the ethics forms. So I'll now hand over to Ava, who will provide an overview of the most commonly updated fields in the ANZCTR.
Thanks, Melina.
I hope you've got that handover now. Yes.
Oops, too far. So in order to do this, we downloaded publicly available ANZCTR data on all registered studies. And additionally, we obtained update data from our internal technical team, which includes what information was updated and when. So for this analysis, we limited our data to interventional studies registered between 2015 and 2024. Studies that were withdrawn were also removed from the dataset. So among the 13,000 plus trials included in this project, about 2/3 of trials updated registry information at least once. For trials that had completed at least one update, our data analysis shows records were updated a median of 2 times. The maximum number of updates completed was 16 times for a single trial. So next, we looked at which trials were most likely to have updated the registration records at any time. And in terms of study type, we found that 65% of randomized controlled trials had completed an update compared to 58% of non-randomized trials. In terms of industry involvement, which we define as a commercial entity being listed as either the primary sponsor, the secondary sponsor, funder, or other collaborator on the trial record, we observed 75% of trials with industry involvement had completed an update compared to 57% of trials with no industry involvement. Oops. So next we looked at updates for registry, when updates for registration records occurred. When looking at time to first update after registration, we see that 25% of first updates occur within 11 to 13 months after registration with the ANZCTR. And this coincides with automated update reminder emails that registrants receive from the ANZCTR at 11 months after the date of registration or since the date of last update. We then looked at which fields were most frequently updated, and for this analysis, we grouped the 100+ fields on ANZCTR into broad categories, and we observe here the top 3 updated categories involve trial recruitment, with high percentages of trials updating recruitment dates, sample sizes, and recruitment status. And in terms of matching these fields to the HREC, we see a direct match between the ANZCTR fields and the ethics application fields. We also saw frequent updates to ethics information, including approval dates and ethics committee details and ethics status. While this information is not collected directly from investigators by ethics committees, it is generated in the HREC as a result of the ethics process. And again, we see a direct match between ANZCTR and the HREC fields. So updates to the intervention and control arms of a study also occurred frequently, and these would include changes to any aspects of the intervention or control treatment for the study, including dose, duration, number of intervention arms, and so on. In these fields, we find that they match similarly across ANZCTR and the HREC. So in conclusion, we found most trials updated their trial information during the trial life cycle, and those that do update will do so a median of 2 times. We saw high proportions of updates for RCTs and trials with industry involvement. And we found that trials that do update typically provide updates on an annual basis, suggesting that these may be triggered by reminder emails from ANZCTR or annual ethics reports. So the majority of updates being made to trials registered on the ANZCTR for information that are also collected on the HREC, which could open up some avenues for collaboration or sharing between ANZCTR and ethics committees. And I'll hand back to Melina to expand on that a bit more.
Thanks, Ava. All right, so as Ava's mentioned, we think there is a value in collaborating with the ethics committees on this topic. And this could involve, for example, discussing the definitions of common data fields in the ethics and the registry forms and arriving at some shared definitions. Agreeing on the preferred data format for the common data fields and discussing how we will manage sensitive or proprietary information that is provided to the ethics committees and how that can flow in, what rules exist so that only some information that is allowed to be, that can, flows to the ANZCTR's public-facing website. And overall, as per the last presentation, we believe that this will help inform the design of the future centralised national one-stop shop for clinical trials. But until this time, the ANZCTR does have some specific actions it will take. It will first explore setting up automatic approvals of the very simple updates that occur in the ANZCTR, and also to discuss with funding bodies and key leaders on how we can make it more of a requirement for trial sponsors to update their record more regularly. We also have some suggestions for the ethics committees, and this would be if there's a possibility to prompt trialists to amend their registry record when making key updates to certain sections of their trial, for example, around recruitment status, intervention, study design, and the contact details for people who wish to participate in that study. So I think through these combined efforts, we can make sure that we're on our way to make the ANZCTR have more up-to-date information available to the public. So thank you. And any questions?
I have a question for you. We've observed at the Townsville HREC, and my eldest daughter, who teaches various areas in STEM in New York City, confirms with me that this is indeed a thing, that pharmaceutical companies, instead of mounting the traditional, what we're used to seeing, multi-center integrated studies of thousands of participants, are instead mounting small studies, say 400 participants, and then combining those results in a meta-analysis. Have you seen that? Can you comment on that as a trend?
It's based on data for Australian clinical trials. We have noticed that there has been a decrease in the sample size of trials overall over the last 10 to 15 years. The reasons behind that we're trying to unpick. It could be for multiple reasons. For example, the smaller trials are now starting to register their trials, which in the past they may not have. We seem to have more earlier phase trials registering with us than maybe before. But in terms of your specific question around what might industry be doing and their activity, we haven't drilled down to that level yet. But just generally, small trials seem to be becoming smaller over time. Yes. And that's not unique to Australia. Yeah.
And there's a comment. For the public, we need this information updated in a more timely way. The currently inability to accurately know what's coming, what's recruiting, and what's finished, as well as accurate contact details, is frustrating.
Hudson, I have a question for a question for Melina and/or Eva. Melina, thanks a lot for that. I mean, as I understand it, the ANZCTR, of course, would wish to be the single point of truth in Australia. I further understand from working with Lisa for years ago that a lot of the information is drawn from clinicaltrials.gov. And I note your comment about the one-stop shop, but there are a preponderance of sort of other registries out there, and trying to update information in several places makes it difficult. Are you envisaging in the one-stop shop that ANZCTR becomes the almost mandatory place to register and update trials, and everything else can flow off that? And not that that's a bad thing, it's just obviously it's good to know if that's what's in mind moving forward, so people can actually understand what the burden might be in the way they currently act.
Yes. Well, so far, in our discussions with the Department of Health for the One Stop Shop initiative, we have asked that at a minimum, the feed that we have coming from the clinicaltrials.gov registry is included as part of the design of the One Stop Shop. So, at the moment, we have that feature available in the ANZCTR, so at a minimum, we would like that to continue to exist. And we have highlighted that a small proportion of studies do register. I think it's less than 5% now of Australian trials register in other registries other than ANZCTR and clinicaltrials.gov, but for the system to be flexible to incorporate those as well. So that's what we've been suggesting.
And one more, Hudson, if I may. The HREA is, in my view, a wonderful forum. It's not everyone's cup of tea. 70% of ethics committees around Australia either mandate it or will allow it to be used. There's still another 30%. Is all of this commentary premised on the fact that the majority of clinical trials, if done in public health systems, will use that form? But if other forms are used, how is that going to marry up with your data fields?
Yes, so this analysis that we've done, it's pretty preliminary. We've based it on what we had access to for the application and updating and annual reports required for the New South Wales for New South Wales ethics committees. Yes, it's definitely not representative of what might be happening nationally, but I would welcome contact from the other committees and also just the overarching committees as well, to get information on that, to see, well, what else exists, and also what fields ethics committees are collecting that our stakeholders would be interested to see on the public website that we currently don't display.
Thanks a lot.